Hi everyone, my name is Keith Stelter and welcome to Tallybook Troubleshooting. Tallybooks, they're everywhere in the oil field. We take so many notes, there's so much information. You get to really know a lot about a person from what's written down in their tallybooks. And before we get started with my amazing guest, Drew Ludlow today, I'd like to thank my employer, Arc Energy, for supporting me, moving forward with having these little interviews, talking about, times out in the field or in the office, just as important, of times when we were solving a lot of problems. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce International Business Development Manager, or at least a former International Business Development Manager, Drew Ludlow. Thanks for being here.
Thanks very much, Keith. It's a pleasure to be here, and really appreciate you having me on your second official broadcast.
You're my first ever interview, so thanks for being the guinea pig. I have no idea how this is going to go, but I think we'll have some fun doing it no matter what. So I know a lot of other podcasts, they get into the weeds of the background, but really what this is about is your troubleshooting story. And if you get, if the story's good enough, then I hope you go to Drew's profile, LinkedIn, or follow up with him himself and find out more about him. This is kind of just create a little curiosity. And we'll have his big announcement of where he's going to once we're done his little story. So take it away, Drew. What did you got that was the big problem?
Well, I think everyone kind of wants to know the big, expat story and kind of how that's all created and how do you chase that? What does that even look like? And so in thinking about how my expat career kind of began, it really all began based upon DSO and collections, and that's not very,
It's not very exciting, but at the
Keith.
same time, money is, the key why we're all doing this. So how much money were you talking about here?
We're talking to the tune of about $5.2 million, Keith. So we're talking big numbers here.
Okay, you have my attention. So where at this point? You're in Houston?
So I'm in Houston. It's 2011, 2012, and I got orders to go win a contract in Israel for a large development out there, and we won that successfully. And unfortunately, we thought it was only going to be an 11-month campaign, so we didn't set up an entity, and this created major issues in our invoicing system. So we had invoiced and we're sitting at about 180 days DSO, and everyone knows that sells something, that in order to do life, you've got to sell something, and then you've got to collect that money.
That's the biggest key. If you can do whatever you want, but if you don't get the money in, it doesn't really matter.
Nothing happens until somebody sells something, and nothing happens until someone collects that money. So here we are, 180 days behind.
On $5 million.
We're on $5 million. We're at a $1.2 million spread rate across 3 rigs. So, this is good times. We're making decent money, and I got the tap to go and clean up that mess.
So basically, this is $5 million on what? Services, equipment. Without getting too far in the weeds on who it was for. What were you guys? What was the business?
We were doing oil field service, running tubing and casing for a major operator over in the Mediterranean. This operator is still to this day operating there, but is currently under a different name.
Perfect. No names. No, don't want to make anybody upset. But I'm sure So you got this $5 million outstanding. How did you go? How'd you go get it?
So off to Tel Aviv I went.
So you had to leave Houston and really get over there. Okay.
So off to the weeds, and I really dove down with the client and sat down with them to really understand why these invoices weren't being paid. And there was multiple things that we found. We were billing 31 times for the safety clamp in 1 month. So our invoices were probably about this thick, Keith. I mean, it was impressive. We were killing a lot of trees.
So you overcomplication of billing, the main portion. What about you get over there? It's the Middle East. I'm sure. Was it your first time going there?
This was my first time out of really America for the oil patch.
So how did you, who did you talk to first, and did you have any help over there?
Well, absolutely. I had tons of help. There's guys like, Chuck Brown and Jack Sanford and Eldad and my attorneys, and there's certain individuals, Randy Ditmore, there's great names in this industry that I'll always remember for them really working with me to help me get this situation cleared up. And without the teamwork, Keith, it just would have never gotten cleaned up. So I sat down with a gentleman by the name of Vince Trahan, and Vince really walked me through what I needed to do to get it cleaned up. Because Vince flat out told me, next month, if I get this stack, they're all going out that window.
Well, with advice like that, how can you go wrong? So you simplify it, you change the stack into, an orderly little, I imagine, simplified process. That cured the whole thing. You literally just going there and turning 30 pages into one page. That was the solution?
Pretty close. First you got to get the entity formed so that you can bill back to the entity because taxes have to be filed. After a 12-month operation in a foreign country, you need to pay those taxes and have a foreign registered entity in order to get paid by your operator. So first we had to establish that through the lawyers and Deloitte. And once that was established, we could actually issue an invoice locally so that we could get paid from the local entity, aka the operator. Once that was established, we were able to cut down on the amount of invoicing we were doing so that same safety clamp only had one invoice for the whole month.
And just simplified like that, all of a sudden the money started coming in?
The money started flowing. CEO was very pleased, and our DSO went down to a wonderful number of 55 days.
That's quite the change. I know money isn't always, the craziest of stories in the oil field. Maybe, people are thinking maybe the rig's on fire, but these are just as important problems as anything else out there. And to be honest, it probably takes a whole lot more in, thinking on how to address it than, getting the fire extinguisher out and putting out the fire. When you were over there, so you're in Israel, meet any people?
A lot of them, Keith. I had the fortunate opportunity to live next to the leader, Mr. Netanyahu, in Caesarea, and we had just a wonderful time there at King Herod's Port. It was where the Pharisees used to live, was where my house was, and it was just really special times. And with what's going on in Israel, just in the past 24 hours, my heart goes out to the people of Israel and their families, and not only the people, but the people there on vacation, the people there that are just traveling through. It is the Holy Land, and all religions lead back to Jerusalem.
Very true, and I'm glad you said it because, in the news now, people all around the world, I mentioned it in my first episode, people in India struggling, and now Israel, this oil field stretches all around the world, and we all got to support each other. Well, sir, now that we've, kind of got your story out of the way, you have a little bit of an announcement to make too, don't you?
I do, Keith. Thanks so much for asking. I've been back now in America for 5 months after 11 years abroad, and I'm really excited that I've pivoted into a new space, and that space is with Stallion Oilfield Rentals, and I will be doing natural gas power generation, cleaning up dirty fracs, power generation on small projects or startup projects where highline power is not offered.
Perfect, man. Sounds like quite the ESG opportunity and everything that the oil field needs as far as good PR. So congratulations.
Thanks very much, Mr. Keith. I really appreciate it. Congratulations for all your success as well.
Arc Energy has been very great to me and very supportive, and I thank them once again, and I thank you, and congratulations on the new opportunity with Stallion, and I hope I did not too bad on my first interview here for Tally Book. These Tally Books, they're everywhere, like I said, and I hope to do a few more of these stories to get people interested, because as you heard, he's a pretty interesting guy. I hope you reach out.
Thanks, Keith.
Till next week.